by Stephen King.
I'm out. I need to find something different.
Ooh.
I know. They're short. They're fun.
I've never read them.
Even for people who never read, I feel like some books should have been read. I am now in this moment realizing I need to have a better plan.
All right. Welcome to another book club. This is David and Gabby's book club. I'm David. This is my beautiful wife, Gabby. Me being a fairly new reader as of just a little over a year ago. Gabby being a reader pretty much her whole life. So this is just a podcast where we talk about books and book-related topics. So yeah, what are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about our 2025 resolutions. We're going to go over our goals for this upcoming year.
Book-related goals.
Yeah, book-related goals for 2025. Yeah, we're going to go through our game plan, how we plan on doing that, using some tips from Atomic Habits. And then we're going to hit some of our 2025 to be read lists. So,
TBR.
yes, also known as the TBR.
Gabby's not attuned to the lingo.
No, I never have been.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what age. Yeah. It's just, it doesn't stick in my head. Anyways, continue. Let's get into it. Let's talk about our book goals for 2025.
Yeah. Well, first, our 2024, just to recap really fast. We both had a goal of 52 books. Very ambitious, mainly because I was reading manga, and so you can just burn through manga. Anyways, I read a total of 44, not counting all the manga, and I read like a little over 80 if you counted each individual manga. But I ended up counting just the whole series as one book each. So 44 for me.
And I finished with 42 with 2 weeks left in the year. So there is potential for 43.
Yeah, we're filming this with 2 weeks left.
I really think I'm going to hit 43. So I'm just going to say 43.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to finish with 46 then, and maybe 47, depending on how fast we read Mistborn.
I'm going to say solid 43. I make no other promises.
Anyways, that's just the context of how much we read in 2024 and what we're basing the goals off of for this year. If you want to go first, since you already talked to me about it yesterday, what your goals were.
Oh, yeah. Overall, I want to read consistently in my life, right? I think my specific goal for this year is going to be 40 total books, which is even less than I read this last year, and at least 2 of those being nonfiction. And my reasoning behind that is this year I have more going on. Honestly, like I have another kid. I work full time. We're doing this podcast, which I think will help me read consistently. But I just want to be... But it still
takes time from reading.
Right. I want to be realistic about how many books I think I can get in this year. I mean, 40 is still a lot of books.
That is a lot of books still.
I mean, how many books? 52 divided by 40. What is that? My teachers told me I would not have a calculator on me at all times. They lied. 1.3. So a book every 1.25. Yeah, about weeks. 1.5 weeks.
But I mean, if you read some more nonfiction, you can pump out in a day if you have a whole day. Which having under 2, we'd have full days to read a lot.
Sarcastic. Yeah, so at least 2 nonfiction books. I don't think that'll be a hard thing to hit. It's just that, especially with this channel, I think, and just general interests, I want to read more fiction, more fantasy, fun books I find exciting and fun.
Yeah.
So that's my goal. What's yours?
Mine was 35 is what I was. Yeah.
I'm still more ambitious than you. Oh my goodness.
And mine was also because we're going to be a lot busier. We just had a newborn who at the time of recording this is 3 months old. At the time of release, he'll probably be 4 months. And one who's about to turn 2. So that's just a lot crazier. You're going back to work. I'm self-employed, but I've been over Gabby's maternity leave. We've really just ramped up trying to build up my business. And so that is starting to look like it's going to be
almost more than a full-time job's worth.
Ramping up and putting a lot more work into that. So because of that, I put 35.
I think it's hilarious that my goal is bigger than yours.
Yeah, still. I want to mainly do fantasy and fiction, but I put like self-help / business books I couldn't decide between 5 or 10.
Oh, wow.
Of the 35.
Of the 35, a third of them.
So like a third, that's the thing I can't decide. It's like 5 sounds reasonable in terms of like the ratio, but at the same time, if I'm wanting to grow my business, 5 business books in the course of a year, I don't know.
I think that's reasonable. I think 5.
5?
I think 5.
So 5 of my 35 being business books.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Right.
And mine's just nonfiction. They can be business books. They can be
business or self-help. But like, most of the self-help I would be reading, like even if they're not business books, I'd be reading them for business stuff.
Okay. I guess I put specifically nonfiction. Like,
yeah,
they could be biographies.
Oh, yeah. I'm talking specifically like my self-improvement books, and my self-improvement is more mainly due to my business.
Gotcha.
So
that makes sense.
So yeah, so that's my goal for reading. We also had a podcast goal. So like this podcast, it's going to take a lot of time, but also like me being a freelancer, my main thing is like wanting to do podcasts and social media for other businesses. And so that's a reason why we're doing this podcast, is to get more reps on doing podcasts.
Well, and also I think it's fun to be a couple who reads.
Yeah.
And this just gives us intentional space to talk and think about it.
It was just like an extra, I don't know, so like this is kind of business, the podcast is, but it's also like a accountability for us to read, doing it a book podcast specifically.
Yeah, absolutely.
And being able to talk about books. But for the podcast, we were wanting to do 1 podcast per week for the year. Like that's our goal, is to hit 1 podcast a week. So since we're starting these on Wednesdays, Wednesday is the only day in 2025 that has 53 Wednesdays. So that would be not 52 podcasts, 53 podcasts.
Overachievers.
So yeah, we're ambitious and overachievers everywhere. So 53 podcasts is the goal. That's 1 per week every Wednesday.
And then I have a tracking goal. Last year, I did not track what I did very well at all. I tried to use Goodreads, but it just was kind of clunky on books I didn't read on Kindle. And so you had to go in and like enter in the specific date, and I just never remembered the date, and that just tripped me up. And I know that seems like a small thing, but it was actually like I only tracked half of my books on Goodreads. I'm like 98% sure that I read 42 to 43 books this last year, but I could have missed one because I like had to sit down and think through everything, and like the library doesn't have a history of what I've checked out. And so it's just like my best educated.
It should.
I couldn't find one. Like
really? Libby does.
Yeah, but like not physical books that you got.
Yeah.
And so those are the ones that like I might have.
Really? It doesn't have that on Johnson County's website?
I didn't see anything. I mean, if one of you knows of a way that I can find that, let me know. But I didn't see anything.
Yeah, Johnson County Public Library.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in Johnson County. Kansas City. Go Chiefs.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But yeah, I want to track just how many books I've read, and I want to keep track of potential books to read next, because I think that that'll just help.
And moving to the bullet journal, because that's how I tracked, is I just kept my list in my bullet journal.
Right.
At the front. And like I had all the books that I would have. I had a list of like books that came up that I want to read that sounded good. And then I had books that I read. So just marking those off.
Absolutely.
So keeping track that way. I want to keep track of my DNFs, because I didn't do that last year. So like if I DNF something, I want to write it down, mainly to like see if I want to go back and finish them or read them again, but also for like to keep track of my DNFs for next year for talking about them.
And absolutely in the bullet journal, like it's stupid how simple
Yeah.
Just keeping a bullet journal is and like how much it helps.
Yeah.
And yeah, I do plan to do that in my bullet journal. Absolutely. All right. So looking at our goals, just putting together a game plan of how we plan to accomplish those goals. I thought it would be fun to look at some tips and tricks from Atomic Habits. Disclaimer, have not read Atomic Habits for about 3 years, I think. It's been about
It's been that long.
I know.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? So this is the concepts from the book that have stuck with me. I didn't go and hit a refresher. This is just the things that lasted. The first thing is that you really want to focus on implementing small changes to build a habit in your life. You want to have the habit of exercising, or in our case, we want to have the habit of reading, right? So we implement small changes to reinforce that habit versus like on the exercising example, if you plan to run a half marathon, you want to exercise more. So your goal is to run a half marathon. Great. You have a game plan to run the half marathon, but then when the half marathon's over, what do? Speaking from experience, I stopped exercising.
But you did run a half marathon.
But I did run a half marathon, which, I mean...
Then you got me to sign up for a half marathon, and I was like, why did I do this?
Yeah.
When we last minute changed to the 10K, and I struggled.
We still moved more than we would have otherwise. But that just brings the goal versus habit conversation to the front of my mind. I just really want to reinforce the fact that we want to read. That's why we're doing this. We want to be readers. And so the goals that we're setting reinforce that habit, I guess, in my mind, of becoming people who read, right? He recommends tracking things for small short-term wins, which I think we've talked about in the bullet journal. He recommends removing as much friction as possible.
So like, for example, if you're wanting to work out or run early in the mornings, first thing in the mornings, getting your clothes and shoes and stuff ready to go and pulling them out the night before so that in the morning when you're tired and motivation is low, it reduces the amount of friction that you need to get your clothes on and
out the door. Absolutely. I think that was actually a specific example.
Everyone says that on their...
It really?
Like everyone says that with like working out and stuff. And it's like you get your clothes out the day before because you're not going to want to
do it in the moment.
Yeah.
And then the last thing that I remember from the book is that you really want your habit to become part of your identity. I am a person who works out. It's just who I am. So multiple times, even this last year when we have the choice, okay, should we watch a show tonight? Should we read tonight? I am a person who reads. Those are just some tips and tricks that we're hoping to pull into our 2025 goals when thinking about our game plan for how we're planning to implement them.
I mean, some of these were already in our goals almost in terms of like the podcast. I guess the goal would be to like have a podcast. Like posting one podcast isn't having a podcast, but like if we post once a week for 52 weeks, 53 for the whole year, then that is having a podcast. That would be the small goals, small changes or
right. And I think like in addition to that, like what is our plan to do to lead up to releasing one podcast a week?
Yeah.
Right? Like our plan is to shoot when, our plan is to plan when, that kind of a thing.
Yeah. So like every Friday night we're going to film something like that.
Right, exactly.
And I mean, we have done that a little bit. Our plan is to like batch shoot once a month. Like right now my parents are watching our kids so that we can just knock out 4 or 5 episodes in a day. And we're going to do that once a month. So yeah, so we've already kind of done that for this one. So podcast once a week. I think another one that we've talked about to like reduce the friction, or I guess this isn't reducing the friction, but it is small changes, is we said no TV except on the weekends.
Yeah.
So like after we get the kids to bed it's just like a wind down, like we're exhausted, they're up in the bed, what are we gonna do? So like a lot of times we like if one of us or both of us are in a really good book, it's like obvious that we're gonna read because we're
the other person, like they want to read.
Yeah, it's
and
like
so even if you don't want to read,
yeah, it's like I'm in a really good spot in my book, I want to read tonight,
right? And if the other person watches something, it just kind of it's hard to read.
But it was a discussion every night. It's like, do we want to watch something or do we want to read? Making this change of like, if it's not Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, we're reading. Like it's the choice is made, we're reading.
I think that also like I have that down as like removing friction.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's kind of what I was gonna say, but yeah, because I was thinking it might reduce friction, but I was thinking it might be more small changes.
Yeah, it probably falls into more of the small changes.
Know.
Maybe it's a both. Maybe it's a hybrid.
Yeah, it could be a hybrid thing. And then we talked about the tracking for the small wins. So whenever we finish a book,
put it in our bullet journal. Yeah. And like I plan to number. So not just writing down all of the books, but writing the numbers down next to it. Because
I numbered them.
Even when I was thinking through this last week, all of the books that I read and was writing them down, I got super excited as the number got higher and higher. Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to writing the number.
When you said, because I've already been tracking the books, I didn't really think of that as like an action item to in terms of helping me to read more. I was thinking like we could also do that for podcasts. Like I could like kind of like put the calendar there and like just kind of mark off each Wednesday that we hit.
I think that would be so fun.
Because that would be really motivating to see the months start tracking down.
Right. And that's what Atomic Habit says. It's being able to visually see that like if you have 10 Wednesdays checked off for releasing the podcast and the 11th week something comes up and there's just an extra hurdle to get over to get that podcast posted.
Helps you take that hurdle.
Right. It just helps. Right.
Yeah, I thought of that too.
That's a really good idea. Tracking for the podcast.
Yeah.
And having like we already mentioned, I'm not tracking on Goodreads this year. I'm sure that Goodreads is good. I just have not invested the time I need to take full advantage of it. And this is simpler. Just writing it down on a list in my journal.
Doing it in the journal for us removes the friction of needing the technology to do it for us.
Absolutely.
Because they have it to where you can like automatically do it on Kindle. But like even then I even checked my Goodreads to see if I missed any and I forgot to write it in my journal. But like it had like that I was continuing reading like 20 books because like it just didn't mark that I finished it. So like even the automated thing doesn't always.
It was a little clunky.
Track that you've finished the book.
Right. And like in all reality, it wouldn't take a whole lot of effort to figure that out. But over the last year, I've realized that I'm not going to invest that effort. So,
yeah. Gabby in technology is like.
It's not.
Like, it's not that she's technologically illiterate. It's the fact that she's.
I just don't want
not motivated.
Yes.
Unless it's like a super simple, stupid, doesn't waste my time and doesn't take any time to learn, then she can do it.
Or if it takes time to learn, but I see immense benefit from it, then I'll do it. But just figuring out every little thing just to figure out every little thing is dumb in my opinion.
But then also reducing the friction, this was kind of what we did last year. Reducing the friction to read more would be, we have Kindles. So that makes it a lot easier to read at night in bed without having to, because like right now our 3-month-old sleeps, his crib is in our bedroom. And so like being able to turn the lights out and still read, or if like Gabby's asleep, I can still read. Or if I'm asleep, Gabby can still read. Or if
we're in the car and it's dark outside and I'm riding and he's driving, I can read.
Yep. Having the Kindle devices, huge benefit in terms of reducing friction. But it also like having it on our phones, the app on our phones, that reduces friction. So like when we're out and about or anything and it's like you're at the doctor's office, like waiting in the doctor's office for like 30 minutes because they're like, you got to be there on time, but I'm not going to be actually seeing you.
But I'm not going to be on time.
Yeah. Well, it's like on moments like that, you can just pull your phone out. You've got your book right there on Kindle. So.
Right. And like I have a hard time just being still sometimes, but I would much rather pull out my phone to read a book than pull out my phone to just doom scroll.
Yeah. I mean, that's another thing that we've done to kind of reduce the friction and distractions is we've taken social media completely off our phones.
And removed the capability to add it without the other's permission.
Yeah. So we have all social media completely blocked on our phones.
Because I cannot be trusted.
Yeah. So that reduces friction. And I mean, having the Kindles also reduced that friction too in terms of there are no distractions on the Kindles.
Yeah.
The actual
it's not a
Kindle
tablet
device.
that can do other things too. It has books on it.
The only thing you can get distracted is going and buying more books, which could be a problem for some people. But we're on a tight budget, so it's not a problem. And the other thing was we got last year, so 2023, we got ourselves AirPods to do audiobooks. Just that also reduces so much friction.
Right.
Being able to like just pop in the earbuds and hit play on your audiobook while I'm doing the dishes or mowing the lawn or anything like that. And having just the wireless and the noise canceling, it just makes it so much nicer. Like the two things, like buying a Kindle and buying the earbuds, the AirPods.
But like really good purchases last year.
Really helped. Yeah, like in terms of reading and getting through more books. So
absolutely. And just I count audiobooks for books that have been read.
We count
audiobooks.
I will say for fiction stuff, like yes, it helps. But at the same time, like I almost want to sit down and read those more because I feel like it still is more immersive reading them. Self-help stuff, I like doing self-help stuff more on audio just to like listen and take that in because you don't necessarily have to be immersed to listen to what you should be doing, if that makes sense. But like a lot of the fantasy and fiction stuff, it's like you're building a world that's trying to immerse you into the situation. And it's hard to do that when like I'm listening to it on the speakers while driving or listening to it while washing dishes or mowing the lawn.
Just because you have things distracting you.
Yeah. You have things you're doing. So fully immersing yourself is a lot easier to do just reading, actually reading and not listening.
Absolutely. And then using Hoopla, using Libby.
And just
using
the library
for
physical
in general.
Copies as well.
Having resources to get the books.
Oh, yeah. Because, I mean, it's so much money to just keep buying new books.
If my goal is 40 books, even if every book was $10, which
that'd be cheap.
Lot of books are over $10.
It's like $20,
that's
$25.
$400 just
and
to hit
for
my...
both, it's
and
$800.
If they're different books, right? So that's just a way to make it more realistic is to make some of them free.
Yeah, most of them free.
Most of them free.
To be honest. The only books that we buy are like books we know are going to be like we're going to read again and again and again.
Again and again. Or if it's going to be like a series that is going to take like 4 months of wait time.
Yeah, if there's a book that's really good and the library has like a 4-month wait, then it might be worth us to buy it. But
I mean, case by case.
But a lot of times,
it's like definitely where we start.
Oh yeah, because a lot of times too, it's like I currently have like 8 holds on Libby because they're all like way far out there, and then I just start reading. I just read other stuff. I forget about it, and then like ping, hey,
when
it's
up. Comes up,
and you're like, oh hey, it's been 6 months.
Like, how about that?
Yeah.
Which I do find like the whole hold system kind of tricky sometimes because I have like one book in particular that I'm thinking of that has come up like 4 different times. And I've had I continue to push it. And I finally just impulsively just borrowed it last week. So I have 2 more weeks to read the book or I lose it. I don't know. Sometimes the hold system is tricky. If it's like a long road to wait for it. But it also helps with I just finished something. What do I read next? Okay, this hold is coming up. This is what I should read. Like just having curated hold list.
Yeah. Well, I think that's another thing that I think you mentioned when we were talking about resolutions of like having a list of fallback books is what you call them. Or just like, I mean, I think that's just a TBR list.
Yeah.
Really. It was like stuff you wanted to read in general. Having that would help as well in terms of always reading new books, getting through them.
Absolutely.
But do we want to go into our TBRs?
I think so.
Yep. Let's do it. Do we want to go one by one or go through all of them?
Like maybe one by one. I mean, I'm sure that you have this at the top of yours. Yeah. Our next planned series is Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. That's on my TBR list, and that'll be 3 books.
So the Mistborn is like, it's a trilogy, and then he has a second trilogy that's after that. Okay. But they're each trilogies.
Okay, so I'm going to say at least 3 books.
Yeah.
Because 6 books seems like a big commitment. I don't know. What would that be? Like at 1.5 weeks per book? So like a couple months. That'd be like a couple months.
1.5 weeks for 3 books is...
I'm talking 6 books.
If there's 6 books, that'd be 9 weeks. 2.5 months.
I was going to say, that's 2 months. And it depends on how fast they go.
Yeah.
And all that good stuff. But
apparently they're big books, and I cannot lie.
All right. What do you have on your...
So do you want me to just like list like...
One at a time.
One at a time? Uh-huh. Okay. I have the Bloodsworn trilogy. I DNF'd it last year because we had a newborn, and it's very detailed, and I couldn't focus because I was sleep deprived. So I went and fell back onto a series that I've read a ton of times, Red Rising. We should talk about it sometime. I'll tell you about it. The Bloodsworn trilogy, I want to hit back again because I think I would enjoy it if I can actually focus on it.
Yeah, no, again. For sure. I have the Chronicles of Narnia.
Ooh.
I know. They're short.
Yeah,
I think they're fun.
I've never read them.
You've never read them?
Yeah. I mean, remember, I've just started reading.
I mean, I just take some, like, even for people who never read, I feel like some books should have been read.
I read Harry Potter. Oh, I didn't even read all of Harry Potter. That's another.
Oh my goodness.
You guys would burn me at the stake if I tell you how I read Harry Potter. My brother-in-law almost did. He just like the look he gave me when I told him.
The judgment was deserved.
Yeah.
Okay, your next one.
So I had the Mistborn trilogy as well, so I'll skip that. I had Dune, another one that I DNF'd because I just hadn't had the reading experience required, in my opinion. It was just it's a difficult read because it's older.
Older and detailed.
It's very detailed. Older and detailed.
Just the way it's written is not easy.
Yeah, it's just not an easy read, and it was above my reading level when I tried it. I feel like later this year, I'll have like 2 full years of constant reading under my belt, and I think I can try. I want to read it. A lot of people are talk about how great it is. The movies are out. Everyone raved about the movies. We watched the first movie, had no idea what was going on, and I was like, I had no idea what was happening. And then I was like, maybe the book would help. I read the book, or the first half of the book, no idea what's going on. Had no idea what was happening. It almost made it worse. So I don't understand it. I want to, and I think I should try that again. So
I have the Miscellaneous trilogy on here. David read that last year, loved it.
It's really good.
So I wanna check that out, see what it's all about.
And then I have. Sorry, were you done with?
Well, I was just like coming to the realization that I have 3 lines on here, like Mistborn series, Chronicles of Narnia, Miscellaneous trilogy, but that's actually a lot of books for just like, because they're part of a series. Yeah. For just like 3 notes.
Yeah. I mean, we're not getting through all, like I have a ton of books on here.
Oh, okay.
And I have a long list.
Man, and they just keep coming.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have Empire of Silence.
Oh.
Apparently it's a really good sci-fi series. Yeah. It's called the Sun Eater series is what it's called. Empire of Silence is the title of the first book, though. It's by Christopher Ricciololio. I don't know his last name.
Me neither.
I can't. It's like R or something.
Okay, Christopher R.
Christopher R. Uh-huh. Not the same Christopher R that watches over Winnie the Pooh, but it's a different Christopher R.
Okay, focus.
But yeah, I want to try that and see what that's all about.
Okay. I have Will of the Many. I DNF'd this last year. I actually, sitting down and thinking through it, I got through most of the world building stuff.
Yeah.
And it had started to get pretty intense. And I ended it at an intense note because I just needed a not intense side hobby.
Yeah.
But I think that I would be emotionally ready at some point this year to read it.
Right. I have the Stormlight Archive.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is going to be a big commitment because the books are big, and I think he has like 5 or 6 of them out.
Okay.
But to at least start that this year, I think would be really like it. From what people say, it looks like a series that I would really enjoy.
Okay.
But it would be a big commitment. So
nice.
Yeah.
I have Silo.
Ooh,
I think that's a series. It's a series, right?
See, trilogy. It's a trilogy.
All these trilogies. Like, and so the thing about series and trilogies for me is that I remember the name of the overarching trilogy, but I can never remember the specific books in the trilogy's names.
So Silo, the first book is called Silo.
Well, right, but
I think.
But if you're talking to me about the Chronicles of Narnia, like if I read the whole thing, like all of them, especially very close together, it's just the Chronicles of Narnia to me. Like Prince Caspian, exactly
like what happened in each book.
What happened when and like each book. Yeah, it's just I'm realizing that it is hard for me to keep all of the books separate. It's almost like one to me.
Well, the other reason why we wanted to do Silo is because we kind of wanted to read it and then watch the show,
right,
and see like how good the show is, because it looks like it's pretty high quality on Apple TV, but we've never read it, so we kind of want to read it first and then watch and see what it's all about. I had Holly by Stephen King.
I'm out.
So I read a lot of Stephen King. Well, I say a lot. I think I read like 5 of his books last
year. That feels
year.
like a lot.
I enjoyed every one of them. They did get pretty dark, and I think it's just the nature of his books. They have dark characters that are messed up. But I knew like Holly was a new book. I think last year, 2023 or 2023, I don't remember when, but I looked at it and I was like, that sounds really cool. But apparently it's about Holly is a character in this other series that he wrote. And that's just like that. So then I was like, well, I can't just read Holly. I need to read all this stuff. So then I just burned through. So it was like the Bill Hodges trilogy is what the original one was. So it was Mr. Mercedes, Finders Keepers, then End of Watch. And then another one called The Outsider. And then she was in Holly. Or then he wrote Holly.
Okay.
So it's like the 5th book in Holly's journey. So I went and started and I read all of the Bill Hodges trilogy. I read Outsider, but then at that time I was like almost burnt out on that world. It was just so dark. I was like, I just need a break from this. And so I stopped before. The reason I did all of it was to read Holly, and I stopped before reading.
So like you want to read Holly.
So I want to read Holly. That's on my list. And Holly is hilarious. I love her as a character.
Yeah.
So I have Holly.
Okay. I have Percy Jackson.
Oh, yeah, you've talked about that, how you think that I would enjoy it as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's written for children.
Yeah.
But sometimes children's books are fun. So.
Yeah. Oh, and that's another one that has a show.
A show now, right?
On Disney Plus. I also had, this hold has come up so many times and we keep pushing it back, but 11/22/63.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say that one, yeah.
Yeah. So we've heard a lot of good things about it.
I've read half of it a long time ago, like 15 years ago.
Oh, you need to read it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we put a hold on Libby, and it keeps coming up, and we're just like, not yet. Every time. I think we've been next on the list for that on Libby for like a year now. So
I have on here, I think the only other one that you haven't said that I have on here is the Dandelion Dynasty.
Oh, the Dandelion Dynasty, yeah.
I think you've mentioned it. I actually have no idea.
I've heard it's really good. I don't know anything about it either. But apparently it's about a dynasty.
Okay.
But I heard it's really good. And so
yeah, these are just like some starting points for me. Now that I'm looking at this list,
that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it didn't feel like a lot of stuff because it doesn't even take up half a page, but
I
it's
mean,
all series. And
yeah, but I mean, mine's like Bloodsworn Trilogy. That's 3. Mistborn Trilogy. That's another 3. That's 6.
Right.
Dune, 7. Empire of Silence, I think, is 6 books.
7 books?
Or no, Dune is number 7.
Oh, okay.
And then Empire of Silence, I think, is 6 books. So that's where we're at, 13. Stormlight Archive has 5 out, 18. Dandelion Dynasty, 21. Silo, 24. Holly and 11, 22, 63. 25, 26. But I mean, if we're wanting to read 35 books, that's 26 of them. 40. Oh, yeah, you're reading 40.
And the other thing is that I need to get some lighthearted, easy, in between new fantasy
some
books.
Some romance stuff.
Yeah, romance. Like Hallmark-esque would be good. Break. Or just like some historical fiction. Just something that doesn't have to build a new world right after I got out of an old world. I think I need to build up that list.
That's the hardest, in my opinion, for fantasy, is like as soon as you spend like 3 or 4 books in a world, I can't just hop in another world.
Right.
So I actually used Stephen King this last year as like a palate cleanser because all of his books are like in Earth, on Earth, and like today. So it's not really building. You don't have to build a world.
Just the scenario.
Just the scenario. So I always use that as I would finish Red Rising, then I would read a Stephen King novel, and then I would get into my next one because I'd had that palate cleanser, and then
So I need to build up that list specifically.
The palate cleansing list.
The palate cleansing list.
I also want to just like read through just the self-help nonfiction that I had as well.
Oh yeah.
Just really fast. Just shoot them off. Just Atomic Habits. I heard Tiny Habits is kind of like more in detailed, more practical in Atomic Habits as well. The Anxious Generation. I've heard good things. It's like talking about just like, I think it's just talking about social media and how it affects the next generation.
Interesting.
And having kids now. Super Communicators.
I just remembered another book that I read.
What?
I forget the name off the top of my head, but I can confidently say 43 to 44 books now.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Sorry. Continue.
Super Communicators is the art of communicating and connecting with people. As a business, that'd be helpful. And I want to reread the E-Myth Revisited. So like building a business, like starting it, I want to do it right. So
absolutely,
just quick self-help stuff. I don't know if you had any self-help nonfiction.
Didn't make it that far. I am now in this moment realizing I need to have a better plan. But I see the shortcomings in my plan, so I know what I need to do.
I guess Narnia could be a little bit of a palate cleanser for you since we already know that world. Maybe. I don't know.
That's true. I think that I do need to find some like just fiction books in this world.
Yeah.
That aren't World War II.
Yeah. Stephen King. It's good stuff.
I don't know. I need to find something different.
All right, that's fair enough.
But yeah, I think that that's a solid plan. I think that if we stick to this plan, if we meet our goals and everything, I think that it's safe to say that we're going to be readers. We are readers. So that's exciting.
For sure. But yeah, that is our resolution plan for 2025. If you want to know about how our 2024 went, reviewing that, and what our top books that we read from 2024, you can go listen to our previous podcast about that. So we're gonna have it linked here if you're on YouTube. So yeah, otherwise,
see you in the next one.